Good morning, friends. It is an honor to stand before you today to share a journey that God has used to teach me a lesson that forever changed the way I view my life, my purpose, and my relationship with Him. You see, sometimes we find ourselves going through situations, facing challenges, and questioning, why is this happening to me? We all have moments where we feel confused, overwhelmed, or uncertain. But I stand before you today as someone who has learned that in those moments, God is not distant. He is teaching us. There is a beautiful truth that I have come to understand. God uses everyday moments to shape us. Often we expect divine lessons to come in grand gestures or lightning bolt moments. But in my experience, the most profound lessons came when I least expected them, in the small, quiet moments of life. That is when God is speaking the loudest. It's easy to get frustrated, to wonder if we are on the right path. But I've come to realize that God's timing is perfect, even when it feels like we are running out of time. His plans for us are far greater than anything we can imagine, and He is never late. When things don't unfold the way we want, it's simply because He is preparing us for something greater than we could ever have planned for ourselves. One of the most difficult lessons God taught me is that transformation often comes through challenges. We don't grow through comfort, we grow through struggle. It is in the moments of adversity, the times when we feel weak, when we think we cannot go on, that God is refining us. It's in those moments that He reveals the strength within us that we didn't know was there. But here's the key: we must reflect. Reflection is a powerful tool. When we look back on our experiences, not in regret, but with an open heart, we find the lessons that were hidden in plain sight. Through reflection, we gain wisdom, and through wisdom, we gain peace. Another truth I've learned is that God's lessons are always personal. He speaks to each of us in a way that speaks directly to our hearts. While others may face similar circumstances, the lessons they learn are not the same. Your journey is unique. The challenges you face are meant to mold you into the person God created you to be. Don't compare your journey with anyone else's. You are walking a path designed for you. There is one thing that will always remain: trust. We may not always see what God is doing behind the scenes. There may be moments of uncertainty, fear, and doubt. But I've learned that in those moments, it's not about understanding the plan, it's about trusting the planner. Faith is the key that unlocks the door to God's plan. And this faith requires obedience. I've realized that obedience to God's voice is what allows Him to work through us. When we align ourselves with His will, we create the space for His grace to flow. When we resist, we limit the possibilities. And surrender to His will and watch how He works miracles through you. Finally, I want to leave you with this: there is purpose in every experience. Every triumph, every failure, every challenge, and every blessing, there is purpose in it all. No moment is wasted in God's kingdom. Even when we don't understand the why, we must trust that He is always working for our good. God has used my experiences to teach me lessons I never would have learned on my own. He used my struggles to shape me into the person I am today. And I believe that He is doing the same for each of you. So don't give up when things get tough. Don't despair when the road seems unclear. God is teaching you. He is preparing you. And He is with you every step of the way. The power of purpose is a force that shapes everything in our lives. It is the very reason we exist. We are not here by accident, nor are we just occupying space on this earth. Each of us was designed with a specific mission in mind, a unique calling that God placed within us before we were born. Understanding this purpose is the key to unlocking the fullness of life. Many people go through life searching for meaning, not realizing that the search itself is a part of God's greater plan for them. Purpose is not just a concept, it is a guiding principle. When you discover your purpose, your perspective on life shifts dramatically. You no longer wander aimlessly trying to fill an inner void with temporary fixes. Instead, you begin to see every moment, every challenge, and every opportunity through the lens of your purpose. It transforms how you interact with the world around you. You no longer live merely for the day-to-day survival, but for something far greater purpose that transcends circumstances and directs your actions. When we operate in alignment with our purpose, it brings out the best in us. We tap into strengths we didn't know we had. Our decisions become clearer, and our path becomes more defined. Purpose gives us direction and focus, enabling us to overcome obstacles that may have once seemed insurmountable. When the world tries to pull us in different directions, purpose anchors us, reminding us that we are not defined by external factors, but by the internal calling that drives us forward. This power of purpose is not just about achieving success in the traditional sense, it's about fulfilling the reason we were created. When we live with purpose, we live with passion. We no longer chase after things that don't align with who we truly are, because our purpose keeps us grounded. It enables us to prioritize what truly matters and to ignore distractions that try to pull us away from our true calling. Every life has purpose, even when we can't see it clearly at first. Sometimes it's hidden in the pain, in the struggles, or in the waiting. But that doesn't mean it isn't there. In fact, sometimes the process of discovering purpose is just as important as the moment of realization. It is through our experiences, both good and bad, that we learn what we are truly made of. These experiences prepare us to embrace the destiny God has planned for us, making us stronger and wiser along the way. When you begin to walk in your purpose, you realize that it is not just for your benefit. Your purpose is intricately linked to the lives of others. You are a part of a bigger plan. Your purpose is not only meant to fulfill your own potential, but to serve and impact the world around you. Each person you encounter, each life you touch, is connected to the purpose you are walking out. Purpose empowers us to give beyond ourselves, to contribute something meaningful to the world. It allows us to create legacies, not just of wealth or material success, but of lives changed, of hearts touched, and of differences made. Purpose enables us to live with intention, not just to exist, but to truly make a mark on the world that reflects God's plan for us. In every moment of your life, purpose is at work. Even when the road is difficult or the destination unclear, your purpose is guiding you towards something greater. There are no wasted moments when you are walking in the fullness of your purpose. It is the very heartbeat of your existence, and once you embrace it, you will see that everything you do takes on a new level of significance. Purpose brings meaning to your life, and once you align with it, nothing can stop you from fulfilling what you were truly created to do. Divine lessons are often found not in the grand moments of life, but in the ordinary, everyday experiences that we sometimes overlook. It is easy to think that God only speaks during times of crisis or triumph, when we are on mountaintops or in the valleys. However, the truth is that He is present in all things, in every moment, no matter how mundane they may seem. The trick is learning to recognize His voice in the small, quiet moments, those seemingly insignificant events that happen around us each day. Every day offers opportunities to hear from God if we are willing to pay attention. A conversation with a friend, a moment of stillness in the middle of a busy day, a simple act of kindness, or even the sound of rain on the roof. These ordinary moments hold divine lessons, but we often miss them because we are caught up in the roof. These ordinary moments hold divine lessons, but we often miss them because we are caught up in the rush of life. It's in these times that God speaks to our hearts, revealing truths that we would otherwise overlook. He uses these seemingly simple occurrences to shape us, to teach us patience, humility, compassion, and gratitude. God doesn't need extraordinary circumstances to work in our lives. He uses the routine, the regular, the everyday as a canvas to paint His lessons. The way we respond to a challenging situation, the way we treat others in our daily interactions, the way we handle the frustrations that inevitably come, these are the moments when God is teaching us. It's in the way we react to life's irritations, the way we choose to love despite difficulty, the way we respond to both disappointment and blessing that God shows us the true measure of our character. Sometimes the lesson comes when we least expect it. You might be sitting in traffic, frustrated by the delay, and then you catch sight of a child laughing in the car next to you, or a bird soaring overhead. In that brief moment, God is reminding you to pause, to take a breath, and to be present. We can miss these moments if we are constantly rushing from one task to the next, never stopping long enough to see what is right in front of us. God's lessons are not always loud or dramatic. Often they are subtle whispers in the midst of the ordinary. When we begin to pay attention, we realize that these lessons are everywhere, woven into the fabric of our daily lives. We may not recognize them immediately, but over time we begin to see patterns. The same lesson appears in different forms until we understand its significance. A frustration at work may mirror a lesson in patience, or an unexpected blessing might remind us to be grateful for things we take for granted. These ordinary moments, whether they are moments of joy or moments of struggle, are teaching us the things we need to know to grow into the person God has called us to be. God uses the ordinary to prepare us for the extraordinary. He doesn't wait for us to be on a mountaintop to speak to us. He meets us right where we are. Whether we are washing dishes, running errands, or having a conversation with a stranger, He is speaking to us in the language of the everyday. But we must be willing to listen, to look beyond the surface of things, and to be present in the moment. The more we recognize His presence in these everyday experiences, the more we begin to understand that there is no such thing as a normal moment. Every moment is filled with potential and purpose. The lessons may seem small or insignificant at first, but over time they add up to profound shifts in our hearts and minds. These divine lessons, when embraced, have the power to change the way we view the world, to deepen our faith, and to bring us closer to the life God desires for us. God doesn't need us to be in a perfect place or a perfect state to teach us. He doesn't need the extraordinary. He takes the ordinary and fills it with His presence, teaching us through it if we are open to hearing and seeing His voice. The more we embrace these lessons, the more we realize that everything we experience, no matter how small, has a purpose in God's greater plan for our lives. 2, God's timing is often a mystery to us. We live in a world that values speed, instant gratification, and immediate results. We measure our lives in moments, days, and deadlines, and so we often expect God to work within the confines of our limited understanding of time. But God's timing is not bound by the ticking of a clock or the calendar of our lives. His timing transcends our understanding, and it is always perfect, even when it feels anything but. In our human nature, we tend to be impatient. We want things to happen on our terms at the pace we set. We make plans, set goals, and expect the results to follow in a way that meets our desires. But often the waiting feels unbearable. We pray for things, we work hard for things, and yet the answers don't come when we think they should. In those moments, it can be easy to feel discouraged or even question God's faithfulness. But this is where the beauty of God's timing is revealed. God's timing is not about convenience, it's about purpose. He doesn't operate in our time zones or follow our schedules. His timing is perfect because it is aligned with a plan that we cannot fully comprehend. It's like looking at a beautiful tapestry where we see only one thread while God sees the whole masterpiece. He is weaving together the details of our lives in ways we can't yet see, preparing us for what He has in store for us at just the right moment. Every delay, every waiting period, and every moment of uncertainty is a part of the preparation for something greater that is coming. Sometimes the things we desire are not yet right for us. We might think we are ready for something, but God in His wisdom knows we are not. There is a refining process that takes place in the waiting. God is shaping us, building our character, strengthening our faith, and teaching us to trust Him more deeply. If everything came to us immediately, we would miss the lessons that are necessary for our growth. We would miss the opportunity to develop patience, perseverance, and reliance on God's strength instead of our own. The waiting also serves to prepare us for the right timing of others. It's not just about us, it's about the larger picture that God is working on. His timing often involves the lives of others, and He is orchestrating a sequence of events where everything aligns perfectly. This means that the fulfillment of our desires might be waiting on someone else to take a step or for circumstances to shift in a way that only God can make happen. We cannot see how the threads of our lives are interwoven with the lives of others, but God, in His infinite wisdom, knows exactly when everything needs to come together. Even when things seem to be moving slowly, or when we feel like nothing is happening, we must trust that God is at work. His timing may not be according to our plans, but it is always aligned with His perfect will. We must learn to rest in the truth that God is never late. His timing may stretch our patience, but it is always in our best interest. When the right moment comes, we will see that everything has fallen into place, and we will understand why the wait was necessary. There is also an important lesson in the fact that God's timing is not always about the outcome we expect. Sometimes we ask for one thing, and God gives us something entirely different. But what we fail to see is that his ways are higher than our ways, and his understanding far exceeds ours. What we may think we need is often not the best thing for us, and his plan, though it may not align with our own expectations, is far better. The key is to trust that his will is always for our good, and that what he has for us is always greater than what we could imagine on our own. We must also remember that God's timing is often about teaching us to rely on him completely. We may think we have it all figured out, but in his perfect wisdom, God allows us to go through periods of waiting to strip away our self-reliance and draw us closer to him. In those moments, we learn to lean into his promises, knowing that his plans will unfold in his perfect time. As difficult as it may be, embracing God's timing means embracing his sovereignty. It's an acknowledgement that he knows what is best for us, even when we don't understand why things aren't happening the way we thought they would. Trusting his timing means surrendering our own plans and accepting that his plan is the one that will bring us the most fulfillment, joy, and peace in the long run. The waiting period may feel long and uncertain, but it is never wasted. Every moment spent in anticipation is part of a divine process that will lead us to a place of greater purpose and destiny. So when you feel like your prayers are unanswered or that the doors you are knocking on are not opening, take heart. God's timing is not just a waiting game, it's a preparation period. He is working behind the scenes, aligning the circumstances of your life with his will. The delay you feel may be the very thing that keeps you from stepping into something too soon or too quickly. When the right moment arrives, you will see that everything was perfectly orchestrated for your good, for his glory, and for the fulfillment of the plans he has set before you. Trust the process. Trust the timing. Because it is always, always perfect. Transformation through challenges is a concept that might seem counterintuitive at first. After all, when we face difficulties, our immediate instinct is to avoid them or wish them away. We long for peace, comfort, and ease. But what we often fail to recognize is that it is through these very challenges that we are shaped and refined into the individuals we were meant to become. The road of transformation is not a straight, smooth path. It is often filled with obstacles, setbacks, and trials. Yet, it is in these moments of difficulty that we find the deepest opportunities for growth and change. Challenges are not punishments. They are not signs of failure or proof that we are unworthy. Instead, they are tools that God uses to refine us, to push us beyond our limitations, and to help us discover strengths we didn't know we had. The process of transformation is not about avoiding hardship, but learning to embrace it as a necessary part of life's journey. In fact, without challenges, there would be no growth. Without the resistance, there would be no building of strength. It's in the stretching, the pressing, and the testing that our true potential is revealed. One of the key aspects of transformation is how challenges expose our weaknesses. This is often an uncomfortable process, but it is essential for growth. When we are confronted with difficulties, we are forced to confront parts of ourselves that we may have been avoiding or unaware of. Whether it is our impatience, our fear, our pride, or our insecurities, challenges often bring these weaknesses to the surface. At first, this can be disheartening. We may feel like we are failing or falling short of the person we want to be. However, this is precisely the moment when change begins. By recognizing our weaknesses, we give God the opportunity to work in those areas, to refine our character, and to build in us a strength that comes not from our own ability, but from his power. As we face challenges, we also learn resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from hardship, to stand firm in the face of adversity, and to keep moving forward even when the odds seem stacked against us. It is through the challenges we face that we develop the capacity to endure. We learn that setbacks are not the end, they are merely stepping stones to something greater. Resilience is not about avoiding pain, but about learning to persevere through it, knowing that there is a purpose in the process. Every time we overcome a challenge, we are one step closer to becoming the person we were meant to be. Another critical element of transformation through challenges is the development of patience. We live in a world that values instant results, where everything is expected to happen quickly and efficiently. But true transformation takes time. It requires patience to endure the process, to trust that the difficulty you are facing is not permanent, but a part of a larger plan. In the midst of challenges, patience teaches us to wait on God's timing, to trust that He is working behind the scenes, and that there is a lesson to be learned in the waiting. This is a difficult but necessary part of the transformation process, because it shifts our focus from instant gratification to long-term growth. Going through challenges, we also learn the power of dependence on God. In moments of difficulty, we quickly realize how little control we have over many aspects of our lives. This realization can be humbling, but it is also liberating. It reminds us that we are not meant to navigate life on our own strength. We were designed to lean on God, to trust in His wisdom, and to rely on His strength. Challenges force us to surrender our self-sufficiency and turn to God for help. This dependence doesn't make us weak, it makes us stronger, because it acknowledges that true strength comes from Him. Through this process, we learn to trust in God's provision, His timing, and His ability to turn even the darkest moments into opportunities for growth. Sometimes transformation through challenges involves a shift in perspective. When we are in the midst of hardship, it can be difficult to see beyond our current circumstances. But as we grow, we begin to see that challenges are not obstacles to our success. They are part of the journey toward becoming who we are meant to be. They shape our character, our heart, and our mind. In time, we may look back on our struggles with gratitude, not because the challenges were easy or pleasant, but because of how they shaped us into something stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. We learn that every difficulty we face has the potential to teach us something valuable. And transformation through challenges also strengthens our faith. Faith is not something that grows in times of ease. It is forged in the fire of trials and adversity. When we face challenges, our faith is tested. We are forced to trust that God has a plan for us, even when we cannot see the outcome. It is easy to have faith when everything is going well. But true faith is built when we walk through the fire and emerge stronger on the other side. Our faith grows as we see God's faithfulness in the midst of hardship. Each challenge we face becomes an opportunity to deepen our trust in Him, to rely on His promises, and to experience His power in new ways. Through all of this, challenges ultimately prepare us for the next chapter of our lives. Transformation is never static, it is an ongoing process. Each challenge we face equips us for the future, preparing us for new levels of responsibility, influence, and purpose. What may seem like a setback today may be a setup for something greater tomorrow. Every challenge is part of God's divine plan to bring us closer to the destiny He has for us. Without challenges, we will remain stagnant, never realizing the fullness of who we are meant to be. In the end, transformation through challenges teaches us to embrace the journey, to trust in the process, and to believe that no matter what we face, we are being shaped into the person we are destined to become. Challenges are not the end, they are the beginning of a new phase of growth, strength, and character. And when we emerge from the other side, we will find that we are not only stronger, but more deeply connected to the purpose and calling that God has placed on our lives. The power of reflection is often underestimated in today's fast-paced world, where we are constantly moving from one task to the next, striving to keep up with the demands of our busy lives. We tend to look forward, planning our next steps, setting goals, and focusing on the future. However, true growth, clarity, and understanding often come when we take a moment to pause, look back, and reflect. Reflection is not just about thinking over the past, but about understanding how it has shaped us and what lessons it holds for the present and future. It is a powerful tool that can bring insight, healing, and direction if we are willing to engage with it thoughtfully. In a world that values action and progress, reflection gives us the opportunity to slow down and reconnect with ourselves. It helps us assess where we've been and where we are, creating a space for us to process our experiences and emotions. Reflection isn't just about remembering what has happened. It is about making sense of those events. When we reflect, we are essentially giving ourselves the time to think deeply about our choices, actions, and outcomes, and how they align with our values, purpose, and vision for the future. Through reflection, we learn to understand the deeper layers of our experiences. Often we move through life in a state of autopilot, reacting to situations and events without fully grasping their impact on us. Reflection, however, forces us to step out of that automatic mode and consider the bigger picture. It allows us to recognize patterns in our behavior, identify what is working, and pinpoint areas that need improvement. By examining our responses to different situations, we can gain clarity on what drives us, what motivates us, and what holds us back. Reflection also provides an opportunity for healing. Sometimes we go through painful or difficult experiences and push them to the back of our minds because we don't want to deal with the hurt. But when we avoid reflecting on these moments, we fail to process them fully, and they can leave unresolved wounds that affect our mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Reflection allows us to confront the pain, to understand its impact, and to begin the process of healing. It is a way of acknowledging the lessons hidden within the struggles, which helps us move forward without carrying the weight of the past. In addition to healing, reflection offers a chance for gratitude. In the rush of daily life, we often overlook the blessings we have. We become so focused on what we lack or what we are striving to achieve that we forget to pause and appreciate what has already been given to us. Reflection helps us shift our focus from what is missing to what is present. It encourages us to count our blessings, celebrate the victories both big and small, and recognize the people and experiences that have shaped us along the way. Through this practice, we cultivate a mindset of gratitude that opens our hearts to more of life's goodness. Another powerful aspect of reflection is the clarity it provides. Life can be overwhelming at times, and we may feel uncertain about the direction we are headed. Reflection allows us to step back, gain perspective, and reevaluate our path. When we look at our life from a distance, it becomes easier to see the choices we've made and how they shaped our current situation. Reflection helps us identify what aligns with our values and purpose and what needs to change. It brings clarity to our decision-making process, allowing us to make more informed, intentional choices moving forward. Reflection also helps us grow in wisdom. Wisdom is not simply the accumulation of knowledge, it is the ability to learn from experiences and apply that understanding in future situations. When we reflect on our past, we uncover the lessons embedded in our experiences. Sometimes these lessons come from mistakes and failures, other times from successes and breakthroughs. Either way, reflection helps us extract the valuable insights we need to navigate life with greater awareness and maturity. It empowers us to avoid repeating the same mistakes and to embrace new opportunities with a clearer sense of direction. Through regular reflection, we can develop a deeper understanding of who we are. It helps us stay grounded in our identity and values, even in the face of external pressures or changes. The more we reflect, the more we become aware of the person we are becoming, and the more we can align our actions with that vision. Reflection acts as a mirror that helps us see ourselves honestly, without judgment, and encourages growth that is authentic and true to who we are. It is in these moments of quiet introspection that we discover the strength and clarity needed to live with intention and purpose. Reflection also enhances our relationships. By taking time to reflect on our interactions with others, we gain insight into how we connect, communicate, and respond. We can see where we may have fallen short in our relationships and what we can do to improve. Reflection helps us understand others more deeply, enabling us to build stronger, more compassionate connections. It also teaches us forgiveness both for ourselves and for others. When we reflect on past hurts or misunderstandings, we give ourselves the opportunity to heal and to let go of resentment, making room for love and understanding to flourish. One of the most profound benefits of reflection is that it connects us with a deeper sense of purpose. When we reflect on our lives, we have the chance to revisit our dreams, passions, and goals. We can evaluate whether we are still on the path we set for ourselves or if we need to adjust our course. Reflection brings us closer to our true calling and reminds us of what matters most. It helps us realign our daily actions with our higher purpose, creating a life that is more intentional and meaningful. Ultimately, the power of reflection lies in its ability to connect us with the present moment, our past experiences, and our future potential. It helps us process, heal, grow, and gain clarity so that we can live with greater awareness and purpose. In a world that moves at an incredibly fast pace, taking the time to reflect can be a transformative practice that allows us to slow down, listen to our inner voice, and reconnect with what truly matters. When we make reflection a regular part of our lives, we unlock a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us, empowering us to move forward with wisdom, gratitude, and clarity. God's lessons are deeply personal. They are not one-size-fits-all teachings, nor are they handed down in a generic, uniform way. Each individual has a unique story, a specific set of circumstances, and a distinct purpose in life, and God understands this better than anyone. Because of this, his lessons are tailored to meet us where we are, shaped by our experiences, our character, and our needs. What God teaches one person may not be the same lesson he teaches another, and that is a testament to his intimate understanding of our hearts. At different points in our lives, we are in different seasons, and God speaks to us in ways that align with the moment we are living through. A person going through a season of grief may hear a message of comfort, peace, and healing, while someone facing a season of joy and abundance may learn lessons of humility, gratitude, and service. The specific lessons we receive are not random, they are purposeful, designed to bring us closer to the person God has created us to be. God's lessons are personal because they often address areas of our lives that only he knows need attention. They are not merely about our actions or the external circumstances, they go deeper into the core of who we are. He teaches us not just what to do, but how to think, how to feel, and how to respond in ways that align with his will. Sometimes these lessons come through personal struggles, as we are challenged to face aspects of ourselves that we may have avoided or overlooked. Other times they come through moments of quiet reflection, where God speaks to our hearts, guiding us with wisdom that seems to come from within, though we know it is from him. Because God's lessons are personal, they are often specific to our character and our potential. What might seem like a test for one person may be a part of the development of a unique gift or talent in another. The way God works in our lives reflects his understanding of our potential and his desire to help us grow into who we are meant to be. This means that God is not just teaching us lessons for the sake of knowledge, but for the sake of transformation. His lessons are aimed at refining us, removing what is not aligned with his purpose, and bringing us closer to the fullness of who he created us to be. These lessons are also deeply relational. They are not abstract teachings, but experiences that draw us nearer to God himself. The process of learning through God's guidance helps us develop a deeper relationship with him. As we walk through the lessons he sets before us, we begin to trust him more fully. We come to know him not just as a distant deity, but as a loving, intimate Father who cares about our individual journey. His lessons teach us to depend on him, to trust in his wisdom, and to seek his presence. Through the lessons he gives us, we are invited to build a personal connection with him, one that grows stronger with every challenge and every triumph. Often these lessons are not learned overnight. They unfold over time, sometimes over years, and they come in layers. What we understand at one point may shift as we grow, and the same lesson might reveal new truths at different stages of our lives. What God teaches us today might only make full sense when we look back years later and see how all the pieces fit together. This gradual process is part of God's wisdom in guiding us. He knows that real transformation takes time and that we cannot absorb everything all at once. Each lesson builds on the one before it, guiding us step by step toward the person we are meant to become. God's personal lessons also come in various forms. They may come through scripture, where a particular verse suddenly resonates with us in a way it never has before. They may come through conversations with others, where someone unknowingly speaks exactly what we need to hear. They may come through nature, art, or even the simple moments of our everyday lives. Sometimes these lessons come through discomfort, trials, or challenges that force us to grow in ways we never would have imagined. Other times they come in moments of peace, stillness, and reflection, when we are able to hear God's voice more clearly. Regardless of the form, the message remains personal, meant specifically for us. The personal nature of God's lessons also means that there is no comparison between our journey and someone else's. We may see others thriving or succeeding in ways we desire, but God's lessons for us are uniquely designed for our own development. What works for someone else may not be the same path God is leading us down. We are each on our own journey, and the lessons we learn along the way are tailored to our specific calling, purpose, and needs. Comparison can be a trap that hinders our growth, as we fail to recognize that God is working intimately in our lives, just as he is in the lives of others. The lessons he teaches us are a part of our individual path, and they will look different from anyone else's. God also uses our past experiences, even our mistakes, as a part of his teaching. What may seem like failure or misfortune to us can, in fact, be the very lesson we need to learn. God doesn't waste anything in our lives. Even our struggles, our regrets, and our mistakes are opportunities for him to teach us about his grace, his forgiveness, and his purpose. Our pasts, while imperfect, are integral to the lessons he teaches us. Through them, we learn resilience, wisdom, and the importance of humility. God does not define us by our past, but he uses our past to shape us, refine us, and prepare us for the future he has in mind. Ultimately, God's lessons are personal because they are about more than just changing our behavior. They are about transforming our hearts. He doesn't just want us to act differently. He wants us to think, feel, and live differently. Every lesson he teaches is a step toward greater alignment with his heart and his will for our lives. Through his personal guidance, we are shaped into a reflection of his love, grace, and purpose. When we embrace his lessons, we are not just learning new things, we are becoming more fully who we are meant to be in relationship with God and in service to his greater purpose for the world. Trusting the unseen is one of the most profound and challenging aspects of faith. In a world that places a high value on what can be seen, touched, and measured, the concept of trusting in what is invisible can seem like a leap in uncertainty. Yet this kind of trust is the very foundation of a deep, meaningful relationship with God. To trust the unseen means to believe in things beyond our immediate perception, to trust in what God has promised, even when we cannot yet see the evidence with our physical eyes. It requires surrendering our need for control, understanding, and immediate gratification. At its core, trusting the unseen is an act of faith. Faith is not based on what is immediately apparent, but on what we believe about God's character, his promises, and his plan. It is about choosing to trust that there is more to life than what we can perceive in the moment. The unseen is not just an abstract idea, it is a reality that exists in the spiritual realm, and it is just as real, if not more so, than the physical world around us. The Bible speaks of the unseen world being eternal, while the things we see are temporary. It invites us to set our focus on the invisible truths that govern our lives, even when those truths are not immediately evident to us. Trusting the unseen calls us to walk by faith, not by sight. This means choosing to believe in God's goodness and his plans for us, even when the circumstances around us suggest otherwise. Life often presents challenges, uncertainties, and situations that seem impossible to navigate, and it is in these moments that trusting the unseen becomes crucial. We may not always see the solution, the way forward, or the end result, but we are called to trust that God is at work, orchestrating things in ways we may not understand in the moment. It is in those moments of uncertainty that trust becomes an act of surrender, an acknowledgement that we don't have all the answers, but that God does. When we trust the unseen, we also trust in God's timing. One of the hardest things to do is to wait when we cannot see the outcome. We want to control the narrative, to know exactly how and when things will work out. Yet, God's timing is often different from ours. Trusting in the unseen requires us to release our anxieties about timing and to place our confidence in God's perfect sense of timing. He knows what we need, when we need it, and how it will impact our growth and purpose. Often it is in the waiting that we are refined, our character strengthened, and our trust in him deepened. Waiting can feel like a time of uncertainty, but it is also a time of preparation, a time when God is working behind the scenes, orchestrating events in our favor, even though we cannot yet see the outcome. The unseen also refers to the spiritual truths and promises that God has made to us. These promises often require us to trust God even when we cannot see how they will come to fruition. God promises that he will never leave us or forsake us. Yet there are times when we may feel alone or abandoned. Trusting the unseen means holding on to his promises, even in the moments when our feelings or circumstances tell us otherwise. It is about choosing to believe in what God has said, rather than being swayed by what we can see or feel in the present moment. Trusting the unseen also means acknowledging that God's ways are higher than ours, and his understanding surpasses our own. We may not always understand why things happen the way they do, and there may be times when we feel confused or even frustrated by the course of events in our lives. But trusting in the unseen means accepting that God has a bigger picture in mind, one that we may not fully grasp in the moment. Just as a child trusts a parent, even when they don't understand the reasons behind certain decisions, we are called to trust God, knowing that He is good, He is faithful, and He is always working for our good. The challenge of trusting the unseen becomes even more real when we face personal struggles. When sickness strikes, when relationships are tested, or when we encounter failure, it can be difficult to see how God is present in those moments. Yet, it is precisely in those times that we are called to trust Him. The pain and difficulty may cloud our vision, but God's presence is still real, and His promises remain true. Trusting the unseen means believing that even in the darkest moments, God is at work shaping us, teaching us, and drawing us closer to Him. It is in the trials that our trust in God grows stronger, as we learn to rely not on our own understanding or ability to control situations, but on God's wisdom and His constant presence. One of the most profound aspects of trusting the unseen is the transformation that happens within us. As we let go of our need to control and surrender to God's timing and plan, we are changed. We learn to depend more fully on Him, to trust His heart even when we cannot see His hand. Trusting the unseen cultivates patience, perseverance, and a deeper sense of peace. It allows us to walk through life with a calm assurance, knowing that we are not alone and that God's hand is guiding us even when we cannot see the way forward. It teaches us to focus less on the immediate, visible results and more on the eternal, unseen truths that anchor our souls. In our relationship with God, trusting the unseen is a journey. It is not always easy, and there will be moments when doubt creeps in. But as we continue to walk with God, we grow in our ability to trust Him in the unseen. We begin to see more clearly how He has been faithful in the past. And that gives us confidence for the future. Each step of trust builds upon the last until we find ourselves in a place of deep, abiding peace, knowing that no matter what happens, God is with us, guiding us and working for our good. Trusting the unseen is not about having all the answers, but about choosing to believe in the one who holds all the answers, even when we cannot see them yet. Faith over fear is a powerful choice, a decision to trust in God's presence and His promises, even when the circumstances around us seem overwhelming. Fear is a natural human response, often rooted in uncertainty, past experiences, or the unknown. It can paralyze us, keep us from moving forward, and prevent us from embracing the fullness of life. Yet faith is the antidote to fear. It is not the absence of fear, but the choice to place our confidence in something greater than our worries, doubts, and anxieties. When we choose faith over fear, we choose to believe that God is bigger than any challenge, obstacle, or threat that may come our way. Fear has a way of magnifying the worst-case scenario, distorting reality, and focusing our minds on all that could go wrong. It often blinds us to the reality of God's power, His love, and His faithfulness. In moments of fear, it is easy to lose sight of the fact that God has already gone before us, that He holds the future in His hands, and that He is working all things together for our good. Faith shifts our perspective from the temporary fears of this world to the eternal truths of God's Word. It reminds us that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. The choice to embrace faith over fear is a daily one. It is not a one-time decision, but a constant reminder to look beyond our immediate circumstances and to trust in the unseen. In times of fear, we are called to lean into God, to trust in His character, and to remember the times He has shown Himself faithful in our lives. Faith over fear is about choosing to believe in God's promises, even when we cannot see the outcome. It is about trusting that He knows the way, even when the path ahead seems unclear or difficult. It is about surrendering our need for control and choosing to walk forward in confidence, knowing that God is with us every step of the way. There is a deep power in recognizing that fear is often rooted in our desire to control outcomes. We fear the unknown because we want certainty, security, and predictability. However, faith calls us to let go of control and embrace the reality that we don't have to have all the answers. God is in control, and He is faithful to lead us where we need to go. Choosing faith over fear means releasing the need for everything to be perfect or understood and trusting that God is sovereign over every aspect of our lives. His plans for us are good, And even when things don't unfold as we expected, we can rest in the certainty that He is working for our good and His glory. In moments of fear, it is crucial to remember that fear often comes from a place of isolation or self-reliance. We fear because we feel alone, unsupported, or ill-equipped to handle the challenges before us. Faith, on the other hand, reminds us that we are never truly alone. God is with us in every moment, every challenge, and every fear. His presence is a constant source of strength, comfort, and peace. Faith in God's presence helps us shift from a mindset of fear to one of trust. We may not know how things will unfold, but we know that God is with us, guiding us and strengthening us for whatever lies ahead. Faith over fear also calls us to stand firm in our identity in Christ. When fear threatens to overwhelm us, it can sometimes cause us to forget who we are in God. We may feel inadequate, unqualified, or incapable of facing the challenges before us. But faith reminds us of the truth of our identity. We are God's children, created with purpose and equipped with everything we need to overcome the challenges we face. God does not call us to live in fear, but to live boldly, confidently, and courageously, knowing that He has already equipped us for victory. When we stand firm in our identity in Christ, we can face fear head-on and move forward with boldness, knowing that we are not defined by our fears, but by the promises of God. Another powerful aspect of faith over fear is the peace that comes with it. Fear robs us of peace. It stirs anxiety, unrest, and uncertainty within us. But faith invites us to rest in the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding. When we choose to trust in God, we invite His peace into our hearts and minds. This peace is not based on our circumstances, but on the truth that God is in control. That He is for us, and that He will never leave us or forsake us. Faith brings peace even in the midst of storms, because we know that God is with us, working all things together for our good. In moments of fear, we can choose to rest in that peace, knowing that God is bigger than anything we are facing. Faith over fear is not about pretending that fear doesn't exist or that we won't experience moments of doubt and anxiety. It is not about ignoring the reality of difficult situations. Instead, it is about acknowledging the presence of fear and choosing to trust God in the midst of it. It is about taking our fears to God, casting our anxieties on Him, and allowing His peace to guard our hearts and minds. It is about recognizing that fear is a part of the human experience, but choosing to rise above it, not by our own strength, but by the strength that comes from God. When we choose faith over fear, we choose to focus on God's power, His promises, and His faithfulness rather than the uncertainty and anxiety that fear brings. Choosing faith over fear is also a powerful witness to those around us. When we face challenges with faith rather than fear, we show others that it is possible to trust in God, even when things seem impossible. Our faith can inspire and encourage those who are struggling with their own fears and doubts. By choosing faith over fear, we become living testimonies of God's goodness and faithfulness, shining a light in the darkness and pointing others to the hope that is found in Him. Ultimately, faith over fear is a choice to live with courage, hope, and confidence, no matter the circumstances. It is about recognizing that fear will come, but it does not have to have the final word. Faith has the final word. Faith tells us that we are not defined by our fears, but by the one who holds our future. It tells us that no matter what we face, God is with us, and we can trust Him to guide us through. When we choose faith over fear, we choose to live with the assurance that God is greater than anything we fear, and that in Him we have victory. Obedience is a fundamental principle that defines our relationship with God. It is not just a matter of following rules or doing what is required. Obedience is about aligning our hearts, minds, and actions with God's will. It's a reflection of trust, respect, and love for God. When we obey God, we are expressing our faith in His wisdom, His goodness, and His perfect plan for our lives. Obedience isn't always easy, nor is it always immediately rewarding in worldly terms, but it is always the pathway to God's blessings and His purpose for us. At its core, obedience is about submission to a higher authority. As human beings, we often struggle with the desire to control our lives, make our own decisions, and follow our own understanding. The world tells us to trust our instincts, to seek what feels right to us, and to follow our own desires. However, God calls us to surrender our personal will to His. This act of submission requires humility as it acknowledges that God's way is higher than our own and that his understanding far exceeds our own limited perspective. Obedience to God is a statement of trust that he knows what is best for us, even when we cannot see the full picture. Obedience is also a sign of our love for God. Jesus himself said that if we love him, we will obey his commandments. Love and obedience are inseparable in the kingdom of God. Our obedience is a natural outgrowth of our love for God. It is not something that should feel burdensome or forced, but rather a joyful response to his love and grace. When we truly love God, we desire to please him, and obeying his commands becomes a way of honoring him. It is not about doing what we think is right or what is easy, but about seeking his will in everything we do. Our obedience is the fruit of our relationship with him, and it reflects our commitment to his will above our own. One of the most significant reasons why obedience is so important is because it leads us to the fullness of God's blessing. God's commands are not arbitrary, they are given with a purpose. They are designed to guide us toward a life of peace, joy, and fulfillment. While disobedience may seem to offer immediate gratification, it ultimately leads to pain, separation from God, and a lack of true peace. On the other hand, when we obey God's word, we open the door to his blessings. His promises are tied to our obedience. Deuteronomy 28:1-2 speaks of the blessings that come when we diligently obey the Lord's commands. The Bible is filled with examples of how obedience brings divine favor, protection, and provision. Obedience is also an expression of our faith. It is easy to claim we trust God, but true trust is demonstrated through our actions. When God asks us to do something, even if it seems difficult or illogical, obedience is the evidence that we truly believe his ways are better than our own. Trusting God means trusting his timing, his decisions, and his guidance, even when we don't fully understand. Abraham's willingness to obey God, even when asked to sacrifice his son Isaac, is one of the most powerful examples of obedience in Scripture. Abraham didn't know how it would all work out, but he trusted God, and his obedience became a testimony of his faith. Obedience, therefore, is not just about doing what God says. It is about believing that God knows best and is worthy of our trust, regardless of the circumstances. There are times when obedience is difficult, especially when it requires us to step out of our comfort zones or to go against the grain of what is popular or accepted. Obeying God might lead us into uncomfortable situations, places of vulnerability, or even conflict with others. We may face criticism, rejection, or even persecution for choosing to obey God. However, obedience always brings growth, transformation, and spiritual maturity. It shapes our character and draws us closer to God. The process of obeying, especially when it is challenging, refines us, teaching us patience, endurance, and humility. It is through these moments of difficulty that we learn to depend more fully on God, to seek his strength, and to trust him more deeply. Obedience is not simply about avoiding sin or doing what is right out of obligation. It is about surrendering our hearts to God and allowing him to shape us from the inside out. The more we obey, the more our hearts are transformed to reflect the nature of Christ. Obedience becomes a way of life, not just a one-time action, and it becomes a process of continual surrender. As we grow in our relationship with God, we become more attuned to his voice and more willing to follow his lead, even when it requires sacrifice. In this way, obedience is not just about external actions, but about the internal transformation that occurs when we choose to align ourselves with God's will. Through obedience, we also become a witness to others. Our actions speak louder than words, and when others see us living lives of obedience to God, they are drawn to the truth of his love and his power. Obedience can be a testimony of God's work in our lives, showing others the peace and joy that comes from living in alignment with his will. It opens doors for us to share the gospel and be a light in the world. Our obedience becomes a part of the mission God has given us, enabling us to impact others and bring glory to his name. Furthermore, obedience fosters spiritual intimacy with God. When we choose to obey, we invite God into every area of our lives. Obedience is a response to God's love and an expression of our desire to grow closer to him. It opens up a deeper connection with him as we show our trust and reliance on his guidance. The more we obey, the more we experience his presence and his power in our lives. In this way, obedience is not just a duty, it is a privilege that brings us into a closer relationship with our Creator. Obedience ultimately is a choice that leads us into the fullness of God's plan for our lives. It is through obedience that we experience the abundant life that Jesus promised. It is through obedience that we become who God created us to be, walking in His purpose and fulfilling His call. While obedience may not always be easy or immediate, it is always worth it. It is the pathway to peace, joy, and fulfillment. When we obey God, we are saying, I trust you, I love you. I believe your way is better than my own. In doing so, we experience the abundant life He has promised, and we bring glory to His name. Every experience in life holds purpose, whether we immediately understand it or not. Life is a series of moments that shape us, refine us, and direct us toward the destiny that God has planned for us. Sometimes the purpose behind an experience is clear, and other times it's hidden beneath layers of pain, confusion, or uncertainty. But regardless of how it appears in the moment, there is a divine purpose at work in each situation. Every joy, every trial, every success, and every failure carries significance in God's greater plan for our lives. The challenge we often face is recognizing the purpose behind each experience. In our fast-paced world, we tend to look for instant gratification, immediate answers, and visible outcomes. We want to understand why things happen as they do. And when we can't make sense of it, we might become discouraged or disillusioned. But God's ways are often beyond our comprehension. And the lessons He is teaching us may not always align with our immediate desires or understanding. That is where faith comes in, trusting that even when we can't see the purpose, God is working behind the scenes, guiding us towards something greater. His purpose is always good, even if the road to it involves difficulties we don't yet understand. Every experience has the potential to reveal something important about who we are and who God is. It is through life's challenges that our character is often shaped the most. Adversity teaches us patience, perseverance, and resilience. It refines our faith and deepens our trust in God. The hard times are not just random or meaningless occurrences, but opportunities for growth and transformation. What might seem like a setback may actually be a setup for something better. God uses those moments to develop in us qualities that we need to fulfill our purpose in life. It's also important to realize that experiences, both good and bad, contribute to the larger picture of our lives. Sometimes when we're in the middle of an experience, we can't see how it fits into the broader narrative of our life. We might feel lost, confused, or overwhelmed by the circumstances. But when we look back from a place of understanding, we can often see how every experience, every choice, every trial, every blessing was part of God's plan to guide us toward our purpose. The mistakes we made, the detours we took, and the seasons of waiting all serve a purpose in preparing us for what lies ahead. God wastes nothing. He uses everything to shape us, to teach us, and to draw us closer to Him. Sometimes the purpose of an experience is not immediately about us at all, but rather about the impact we are meant to have on others. The way we respond to life's challenges, the way we handle setbacks, and the way we celebrate victories can be a powerful testimony to those around us. Our experiences, both the highs and lows, become part of our story that God can use to encourage, inspire, and teach others. It's often through our vulnerability, our struggles, and our triumphs that we are able to connect with others and share the hope and strength that God has given us. In this way, God uses our lives as instruments of His love and grace in the world. Moreover, every experience is an opportunity to learn something new about God's character. When we face difficult moments, we often find ourselves questioning God's goodness, His faithfulness, and His presence. But it is in these moments of doubt and uncertainty that we often discover just how close God is to us. He is our refuge in times of trouble, our provider when we are in need, and our comforter when we are grieving. The more we experience His faithfulness in the midst of life's challenges, the more our faith is deepened. We begin to realize that no matter what we go through, God is always with us, and He is always working things together for our good. Even in the darkest moments, He has a purpose, and that purpose is to bring us closer to Him and to shape us into the people He has called us to be. In the midst of every experience, there is an invitation to trust God more deeply. We can choose to face life's challenges with faith, knowing that God is in control, or we can allow fear, doubt, and frustration to take over. The choice is ours. But the truth remains that every experience we go through is an opportunity to trust God more, to lean into His strength, and to surrender our own plans to His perfect will. When we trust God in every experience, we begin to see how each part of our life fits together like pieces of a puzzle, and we can rest in the confidence that God is at work in all things. Purpose is also found in the everyday moments, not just the big life-changing events. Every small choice we make, every conversation we have, and every act of kindness can serve a greater purpose in God's plan. We may not always recognize the impact of our actions, but God does. He uses even the smallest moments to shape us and to influence the world around us. We don't have to be in the spotlight to have purpose. Our everyday lives are full of purpose if we live them with intention and faith. In each moment, we have the opportunity to reflect God's love, His truth, and His goodness impacting the lives of those around us. Ultimately, the purpose in every experience is to help us grow closer to God, become more like Christ, and fulfill the unique calling He has placed on our lives. Each experience serves as a stepping stone, leading us to His tour, leading us toward the person God wants us to be. Some experiences are painful, some are joyful, but all are part of God's plan to refine, equip, and prepare us for the future He has in store. We may not always understand why certain things happen, but we can rest assured that they are not in vain. Every experience has purpose, and that purpose is always aligned with God's eternal plan for our lives. As we trust God and remain faithful in every season, we will see how He uses our experiences to bring us closer to His heart and to fulfill His divine purpose through us. Every experience we encounter in life, whether it is filled with joy or marked by struggle, has a divine purpose. God in His infinite wisdom orchestrates every moment to shape us, refine our character, and draw us closer to Him. While we may not always understand the purpose behind the experiences we face in the present, we can trust that He is at work in all things. Each moment, whether good or bad, is an opportunity for growth, learning, and transformation. When we embrace this truth, we begin to live with greater faith, knowing that nothing in our lives is meaningless or wasted. Remember, God's plan for you is always greater than what you can see in the moment. The pain you endure today could be preparing you for a future that exceeds your expectations. The joys you experience are not just gifts to be enjoyed, but stepping stones to fulfill a higher calling. Every step, every challenge, every victory is a part of the journey that leads to the destiny He has designed for you. So take heart in knowing that God is with you in every experience, guiding you, teaching you, and empowering you to fulfill your purpose. Trust His timing, trust His process, and rest in the assurance that He is using every moment to fulfill His perfect plan for your life. You are never alone in this journey, and every experience is a key to unlocking the purpose He has destined for you.